All right, guys, the final score is back with another big interview, another NFL legend I've got on the line today. You know, you guys know I'm a Steelers fan, but I'm also a big-time football fan, and this guy was a member of one of those teams that was there for a while with one of those legendary teams. I'm talking about the Green Bay Packers, you know, Lambeau Field. I'm talking about Super Bowl champion, kicker for the Packers, Mr. Chris Jacke. How are you, Mr. Jacke?
I'm doing great. Hey, and you shouldn't lead in you're a Steelers fan, but because I grew up in Dallas, and you know who my favorite team was?
Oh, if you grew up in Dallas, don't tell me it was Pittsburgh.
And my favorite team was Pittsburgh Steelers, because the Steelers always beat the Cowboys. And I loved the way they played the game as a kid growing up with the steel curtain and all that. And, you know, the Cowboys were kind of the prissy, pretty boy team, and I didn't like that. So I was a big Steelers fan growing up. So I'm with you, Ted.
You said that, I didn't. That's some of the Cowboy fans are not going to like that, but you're saying what I'm thinking, though. I know you had to catch it if you were a Steelers fan in Dallas at that time.
Oh, I was, yeah. But my folks, I actually grew up. I was born in Richmond, Virginia, and my dad moved to, or my folks, we moved to Dallas in 1971. My dad was got transferred with his job, and as soon as I got old enough to start following football, I just started loving the Pittsburgh Steelers. I loved only the one emblem on the one side of the helmet.
Right.
I loved the black and gold. They were just fun to watch, and 4 Super Bowls in the 70s and early 80s. That was my team.
Yeah,
absolutely. Growing up,
I have been a diehard Steelers fan since I was 5 years old, and the rest of I had a cousin that was a Steelers fan as well, but the rest of the family were Redskins fans, because I'm from right down the road from Richmond, Virginia, probably about an hour and a half in a little town in eastern North Carolina. So all we saw back in the day when you had 3 channels was pretty much Redskins. So every once in a while I would get lucky enough to see the Steelers, of course, the playoffs, but with Bradshaw, like you said, Bradshaw, Franco, Stallworth, and Swan, and the steel curtain, how could you not pull for those guys? I know a lot of Cowboy fans out there are saying, how could you pull for those guys?
Yeah, I pulled for it, and they always beat the Cowboys, which made me happy. I mean, just their Super Bowl run in the 70s was just awesome to watch.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So you took, I asked if you were, that was one of my questions, if you were a football fan growing up and what team, so we got that. Well, in high school, were you like, a 3-sport guy? Was football your thing, or was there other sports you played?
I played soccer, baseball, and football on the side.
Okay.
Growing up in Dallas, I started playing soccer when I was 5 years old, and played all the way through high school. Played club soccer. I was playing soccer year round. We had club leagues that were spring, summer, fall. You throw in the high school league, which was, I think, in Dallas. I think it was in the springtime. So during the spring, I was actually playing club and high school at the same time, and then the fall, I was playing football. So it was, and as a younger kid, I loved playing baseball. That was just a fun summertime thing to do.
Right.
And so, I grew up playing all 3 sports. I tried basketball one year. I was horrible. It is true what they say. White men cannot jump. And I could not jump. So.
Well, when did you realize football was going to be what took you to the next level?
Oh, until you make it, I don't really think you're going to go to the next level until you get there. I can remember, I didn't start kicking football until probably the 7th grade, and I can remember, the day the coach brought us all together in 7th grade, and hey, we need someone that can kick off, to start the game, obviously. And, I had played a lot of soccer up to that point, so I kind of raised my hand. I said, it can't be much different from kicking a soccer ball. And so that's how my football kicking career started, and then I just, played right through high school, went to the, football powerhouse, University of Texas at El Paso. What are you laughing at?
I actually looked up, I've done my research on UTEP.
That's the new running back we got a great running back here at the Packers from UTEP, so come on.
Oh, yeah, you do. You definitely do.
Absolutely. So you really don't, my college career, I kicked the first couple of years. I was battling a guy that was a year older than me. And I actually took my junior year off to let him have his senior season all to himself. And, at that point, kicking in the NFL really wasn't on my radar. But as my senior year progressed, I went 25 for 27 in field goals, and we scored a lot. I think I had like 50 for 50 in extra points, and then the talk started. Started getting calls from agents and so forth, and then it started going, I may have a chance at this. I just prepared like I was going to try and get drafted, like these agents were telling me, and I was fortunate enough to be one of the lucky few to get drafted, and by the Green Bay Packers, a team that wasn't even on my radar to get drafted by. I thought I was going to Denver or the Raiders at the time. So, but things work out for the best. I love where I'm at. I call it home now here in Green Bay. It's about 6 degrees outside.
Oh, wow.
So we're doing this phone call from in the house, not outside.
Yeah,
so.
Well, I'll make you mad probably when I tell you it's 75 degrees here in North Carolina right now.
So I guess when I check in with my folks, they still live in Dallas, and they always, I think they said it was like 70 there yesterday. So
wow.
But you can't make snowmen in that kind of weather, my friend.
No, but it'll be 40 degrees tomorrow. It's going from 70 to 40 overnight. So,
40, huh?
Yeah. Ooh, wow. I'm sure you love 40 right now.
School closings. I can see it. In the South, a lot of school closings when it gets to 40.
Just to show you, I did my research on UTEP. I think your senior year, you went 10-3, played in the Independence Bowl.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I did my research on you.
Let's see how good your research, how far you went in your research. Who did I play? Who did we play, and who was the quarterback?
Southern Miss. You played Southern Miss, lost 38-18, and the quarterback had to be Brett Favre.
It was Brett Favre.
Yeah, because look, Southern Miss used to play. I'm a ECU, East Carolina University fan, and Southern Miss used to play every year against ECU. They were the big rival back then. And I remember hearing that name, listen to it on the radio and hearing that name, Brett Favre. I was like, what kind of name is Favre? Who is this guy? Yeah. Who would have thought? So you talk about the NFL draft, and you said you thought that Denver or Oakland was going to get you. Any other teams come around that might have been interested in you?
Those two, the Raiders, and I didn't have any workouts. It wasn't back then. It's not like it is today, where there's a workout for every position and all this stuff. And my agent kept talking. He said he was having conversations with the Raiders and the Denver Broncos, and said they're definitely going to take you in the draft. And actually, the only special teams coach that came down, and all we did was go to McDonald's and have a coffee or a Coke or whatever it was the special teams coach from the Green Bay Packers.
Wow.
And I'm just, I don't even remember what the conversation was about. Obviously I'm sure it was about football, but, I kind of left that conversation going, okay, that was fun. That was cool. Got to meet a special teams coach in the NFL, but in my back of my mind, I'm going to the Raiders or the Broncos. And that first day of the draft, this is back when there's 12 rounds. And the first day, I think they do 1 through 6 or, whatever it was.
Right.
So it wasn't until the second day or maybe even the third day. I got drafted in the 8th round, and the person on the other end of the call. I'm in my dorm room. There were no cell phones, so I had to sit in my dorm room, with a rotary dial phone waiting for these people to call. And it was Lindy Infante and the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, and he says, we're going to take you here in the 6th round, and we're welcome to the Green Bay Packers. Okay. And I said, I'm excited. What do I wear?
Yeah, it's kind of a cultural shock going from Texas to Green Bay, Wisconsin. What was your first initial reaction when you got to Green Bay?
My first trip here was our first mini camp, and it was snowing in May. And I was like, what have I gotten myself into? Because I grew up in Dallas, went to school in El Paso. The average temperature in El Paso is probably 75 degrees year-round, although we got a little snow every now and then. But nothing could have prepared me for the weather up here in Green Bay. Fortunately, I had a lot of good friends. At once I got here, Don Mikowski, Don Bracken, the punter at the time, who was my holder. And they kind of took me under their wing and said, here's what you wear on game days. Here's what you do to stay warm. So I survived it for 8 years, I guess. So
yeah.
They had some good advice.
Yeah, and there's a name I haven't heard in a while, Don Mikowski, the Magic Man. I remember watching him play at Virginia. He gave UNC fits every time he played them. So, who did you have a big kicking battle in camp with anybody, or was it pretty much your job from the start?
Well, yeah, I was drafted in the 6th round, but when I got here, there were 4 other kickers in camp, and the Packers, the prior year or two, they had gone through. If memory serves, they had gone through like 6 or 7 kickers the last 2 seasons. They just hadn't been able to decide on somebody, or a guy just hadn't worked out. So they had, including myself, there were 5 kickers in training camp for my rookie year.
Wow.
And obviously, being drafted, you have a little bit of an edge. But there were some good, and I don't remember their names, but there were some good kickers in that camp. I was just, maybe being drafted helped a lot, but I had a decent camp, and I think they made the right choice.
Yeah, pretty good rookie year. You had 108 points, and this is something Green Bay had been going through, struggling. And this year, your first year there, they automatically get the name Cardiac Pack. Thanks a lot to who we talked about earlier, the Magic Man, Don Mikowski. What was it like playing with Mikowski?
He was a good friend of mine. Don Bracken, the punter, and Mikowski were actually roommates. And Don being the punter was also my holder, so obviously being good friends with Don Bracken, I just by default became very good friends with Don Mikowski, and we had a good time, both on and off the field. So, I mean, they taught me how to drink beer, I guess is the best way to put it. But it's just great. That is a great group of guys that year, that in 1989. Brian Noble, just Mark Lee was there. A good friend of mine who gets a lot of bad rap, Tony Mandrich, who was drafted the same year I was.
Yep. Yeah.
And we ended up actually living close to one another for several years. So
wow.
It was just a great group of guys, and I don't know if obviously the talent level just wasn't what it needed to be, which obviously was a precursor to Lindy leaving in '92, and the other guys coming in. So, but it was a great time. A lot of come from behind wins.
Yeah.
Hence the name Cardiac Pack.
Yeah,
I think most of our wins were by a field goal or by a touchdown in the last 2-minute drive.
Yeah, and you guys had some big wins. You were the last team to beat the 49ers before they went on that Super Bowl run to beat the Broncos that year. And also one of the games that stuck out that year was the game against the Bears at Green Bay. Mikowski throws a touchdown pass to Sterling Sharp, and at first they say it's a touchdown. Then they have a penalty call, so he went over to the line of scrimmage. It goes to instant replay, and you guys get the win after they go to instant replay. It's first time since 1984 you guys have beat the Bears, so it was pretty, and you guys with 10-6 still didn't make the playoffs.
Right. So yeah, I remember at the end of the season, I don't remember who we had beaten, but I think the Minnesota Vikings had to lose. And I think they were playing a Sunday night game or maybe a late game on Sunday. So they had to lose for us to get in, and it didn't work out well. But, that instant replay game was fun. But a lot of people forget we still had to kick the extra point to win the game.
Yeah.
I got to throw that in.
No pressure.
Yep, no pressure.
And look, let me ask you this. Looking at the way some of these kickers are struggling, do you think it was easier back then for a kicker, or is it harder these days for a kicker?
I think on a whole, I think most of the league has pretty good kickers. We got a very good one here. Obviously, the Ravens have a great one.
Oh yeah.
The Cowboys are struggling. I didn't realize till yesterday when the guy got cut that he had missed 10 field goals. Every generation, I would say, my generation was better than the generation that played before me. And, the generation that came after me, the Ryan Longwells, the Nathan Cosbys, they're better than we were. And they're just, and we kind of touched on it, there were no kicking camps and that type of stuff back when I was growing up. Now there's a camp for everything, whether you're a kicker or a lineman or a deep snapper or a wide receiver or a quarterback. everything is specialized. So I think, as a whole, I think, kicking is very good. I mean, if you're not kicking 90% these days, you're not on the team.
Right.
When I played, if you were kicking 75, 80%, you were considered elite. So, things just get better with time. All positions are better, though.
Yeah. You guys kind of struggled the next couple of years. 90, you go 6-10. 91, you go 4-12, and that leads to Lenny Infante being let go. What was it like playing for Coach Infante?
And you'll appreciate this. He was a lot like Bill Cowher. He was a player's coach,
right?
And being a Steelers fan, you understand what that means.
Yeah.
And he could have conversations, with you about things that didn't involve football. And whereas, and we'll probably get into Mike Holmgren. Mike Holmgren was all about football, and he had his goal. He didn't care about your golf game. He didn't care about your thing. He cared about your family, but you get the point.
Yeah.
He was more football, whereas Lenny Infante was more, football and, hey, how you doing? How's your golf game? What do you got your, are you still hitting them well? That type of stuff. Whereas, when Mike came in, he says, we got a goal. We're going to win a Super Bowl, and it will be done here. So it's two different styles.
Yeah. Mike Holmgren comes in. 1992 starts turning things around, and plus you had a guy come in that might have had a little something to do with that too. Cincinnati Bengals game, September 20th, 1992. Mikowski gets hurt. Now, what are you guys thinking after Mikowski gets hurt? Are you thinking, oh God, what are we going to do now?
I didn't care about that. I was thinking that's my holder.
Who's going to hold for me now?
Don Mikowski was my holder. Who the hell's going to hold for me now? and you'll probably guess, but my backup holder was Brett Favre.
Oh, yeah.
And God bless him. He's probably one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. But as far as a holder, he's got two left hands, and it was just horrible. So that was going through my mind. I was like, holy crap! Am I going to make another field goal or an extra point? Because I knew Brett was not a good holder. He hated it. I mean, every time he came out there, he goes, "Now, Chris, don't kick me." And I go, "Brett, I'm not going to kick you."
I can only imagine some of the stories there.
Yeah, I mean, Brett was a lot of fun. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. But you guys got 9-7 that year, and you also have another legend that had his career cut short there, Sterling Sharpe. What was it like with Sterling Sharpe?
He got a bad rap because he didn't like talking to media.
Right.
But I had a chance to play with him for when did he retire? 95, probably.
95, right before. I think it was 94.
Yeah. So I got to play with him for 4 or 5 years, and I saw some of the things he did to be able to play on a Sunday. He had a lot of injuries, and one in particular, we were actually playing in Milwaukee at County Stadium when we were still playing down there.
Right.
And I remember it was a cold game, and when I'm done with my warm-ups, I go back into the locker room because I'm going to stay warm. And I peek my head into the training room, and there's James Campen, who was a lineman, and a couple other guys. They were holding him down, and they were injecting a painkiller into his sternum because he had a cracked sternum, so he could play. It was, I mean, that man could play through a lot of pain, obviously with a little help, but, people talk about the greatest receivers. If you're not talking Sterling Sharpe in that conversation, you're probably doing a big disservice.
Yeah.
If he could have stayed healthy, I mean, he was incredible. I mean, he was one of the first ones to break 100 receptions, and just incredible.
I'm right there with you. If his career was longer, you're talking about one of the best receivers in the history of the NFL right there with the numbers he put up when he was playing hurt. I mean, he was incredible.
Yeah, it was.
So 93, you guys go 9-7, and this is the year that you guys pick up this guy. I think his name was Reggie White. I mean, no big. Yeah. And did you guys?
Name rings a bell.
Yeah. Did you guys feel like this was the turning point for y'all when Reggie White came and signed with? Because up until that point, Green Bay was not a place that free agents like to go. It's kind of like the place where you got shipped off to.
Oh, yeah. I thought that, I go out and do a lot of corporate speaking, and I talked about, watching old movies like Brian Song or, movies like that and I can remember, I think it's in that movie that if you don't start playing better, and this is George Halas, I think, talking to his team, you guys don't start playing better, I'm going to ship you off to Green Bay. So you're exactly right. Green Bay was a destination for cast-offs or for, putting a little fire underneath someone's butt. But Reggie White changed that.
Yeah, he did.
And I always, during my conversations, or corporate speaking, for everything he was on the field, which was incredible, he would go out and recruit guys. Sean Jones, I think, recruited him. Andre Rison, when we needed a receiver. I know he talked to him to say, you got to come here. So he was a great ambassador for Green Bay once he got here, right? Because he knew what we were planning to do.
Yeah, and he just automatically, you can see the biggest difference in that team. You guys get to the playoffs, get a wild card win over your division rivals, the Lions, on a crazy play at the end, a 40-yard touchdown pass from Brett Favre to Sterling Short late in the game, 55 seconds left, and this was across the field. A lot of coaches probably would hold their breath with somebody making a throw like that, but it worked out. You guys get to the playoffs, beat the Lions. Then you run into the Cowboys, and they sign of things to come. This is like the big hump for y'all, trying to get over the Cowboys and lose that game 27-17. So you got to be feeling, we're on the upswing now. This is a team that's going to be the team of the future. 94, y'all go 9-7 again, and it's pretty much the same thing all over again. But let me ask you, you guys had somebody on the roster that year. I don't know if you had much interaction with him. A guy named Kurt Warner. Do you remember Kurt Warner being on that team that year?
He was only on the team during training camp, right?
During training camp, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think, so he was there. You know what? I don't even remember him being on the team or during their training camp. I mean, when you're looking at Brett Favre and I think maybe the backup then was Doug Peterson.
Well, you had a couple of, you had Ty Detmer and you had Doug Peterson.
Ty Detmer.
Yeah.
Oh, and Mark Brunell.
Mark Brunell was there before the Jaguars come along.
Yeah. So, there were a lot of names there already, and, I'm worried about kicking. I'm not worried about all the backup quarterbacks. So,
I got to ask you, this is a guy's name that doesn't get mentioned a lot, but I got to ask you about this guy. He was your punter then. Craig Hentrick comes from Notre Dame. What was it like playing with Craig?
I love Craig Hentrick. He's the best holder I ever had, best friend I ever had on the team. We still stay in touch. He actually lives down your way a little bit. He lives in Nashville.
Okay.
Just a great athlete. That's a kid that can play everything. Great golfer, unless you took away his dip. He got flustered if you took away his dip, and that's the only way I could beat him in golf.
Wow.
But he's a good basketball player, good soccer player, good baseball player, and obviously a great punter and a great kicker. I got hurt, so I think it was in '95 and missed a game, and they had brought in another kicker who was there during training camp, and he puckered up during pregame. I think it was in Jacksonville, and he couldn't kick. And for whatever reason, it's a little different from practice to real game time. And Craig ended up kicking in that game, and I think he had 2 or 3 field goals. So,
wow. Yeah.
He's a good kid.
Yeah. I just always remember, because we watched a lot of Notre Dame football, and I remember following him through his NFL career as well. Always a great kicker. So you guys, like I said, you get a repeat of the year before. You beat the Lions in the wild card, then go to Dallas and you get beat pretty bad, 35-9 in the divisional playoffs. So are you guys feeling like this? Man, we're never going to get over this hump. We're never going to get past the Cowboys.
It took us a while to figure it out. We had to get home field advantage.
Yeah.
We kept going. I think we actually ended up going to 2 NFC championship games in Dallas and lost both before we actually got the one, here in '96. And but yeah, home field advantage was very important, especially when you're coming to Lambeau when, outside, this time of year it's 6 degrees and windy and snowy. And but yeah, it just, every time we got in there and we'd advance, it was always going down to Dallas.
Yeah.
They just had our number down there for whatever reason.
And even the Thanksgiving game that year when Jason Garrett was playing, and I was like, wow, this is going to be the time they beat them. And then it was like, oh, wow. Anyway, but 95, you guys do it again. You get to the playoffs again, 11-5. You're getting better. Beat the Falcons in the wild card. Beat the 49ers. I mean, that was a big win for y'all. And I was like, this is going to be the year they do it. Then you end up losing to the Cowboys again, 38-27. But, and then in 96, you guys are coming up. You guys had to feel like, okay, we've got some pieces in place now. We're older, we've got more experience, and we got these pieces in place. Did you guys feel like 96 was your year?
Yeah, as the year progressed, we were playing very well, but I think the game that really kind of put us over the hump as far as saying, hey, and actually for the entire football world to take notice that we have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, it was that Monday night game against the 49ers.
Yeah.
The teams that we struggled with were either the Cowboys or the 49ers, and obviously those two teams usually were going back and forth winning the Super Bowl in most of the 90s. So it was really until we beat one of those teams that people were going to take us seriously, and we beat those guys on Monday night on a last-second play as well. I'll let you tell it what it was.
Oh,
because I'm humble. So yeah, that just we had a stretch in the middle of the '96 season where we had a few guys injured, and I think we actually had a 2 or 3 game losing streak in the middle of the season.
Yeah, you did. You did. It was a 2-game.
I think that was Brett was banged up a little bit. I think Mark Monroe was out for a couple of games. So we were dinged up in the middle of the season, and once those guys got back, we went on another roll and never looked back.
Yeah, you get that lose to the Chiefs and the Cowboys again on Monday night. That's a 2-game losing streak, but you guys end up going on a 5-game winning streak to get to the playoffs, and you get that home field. You win your divisional playoff game against 49ers. I just remember that being like a slop fest. It looked like Desmond Howard had that big playoff run, and then kind of surprising you play. I guess you guys are expecting. Well, you guys expected we're going to play the Cowboys again, and then the Panthers pop up.
Yeah. You're testing my memory here, but we were thinking, hey, we're finally going to get the Cowboys here in Lambeau.
Yeah.
And you're right. These Panthers, I think was that their first or even their second year in existence?
Their second year.
So so there's a little bit of unfamiliar territory as far as us knowing who the Panthers were, and they were a good team. But I think the difference was obviously, we had been knocking on the door for several years. We had them in Lambeau. I think it was a pretty chilly day.
It was.
Yeah. So, we kind of had everything going in our favor at that point.
Yeah, and I think with that game, Lambeau had a lot to do with you. What was it like playing at Lambeau Field? That the history behind it, and then that great crowd you guys had there.
It's awesome. And I mentioned I was in a training camp at Pittsburgh for a year after my 8-year career with the Packers, and that was the only team that I've been around or community I've been around that's even close to what Green Bay is. People up here, they live, they breathe, they postpone church for game days, or they move church services around for game days. Everything is Packers here. Not only in Green Bay, but really in the entire state, and even outside the state of Wisconsin. It's everywhere you go. If you remember playing games down in Tampa Bay where half the stadium was full of cheeseheads. So it's almost cultish, the way they are. And they're the same they are today. When I was playing, there was a waiting list of 40,000 names on to get season tickets. I think that list was about the same still.
Wow.
So it's very much like a college atmosphere. A lot of beer drinking, a lot of fun people, a lot of fans that are actually very knowledgeable about football. That's shocking sometimes. So it was a lot of fun.
So you get to the Super Bowl. I mean, and to think about it, what was it like? You know, that feeling is that we're going to the Super Bowl now. We finally done it.
Yeah, I can remember walking around on the field and just what was going through my mind, because there were only two of us that were holdovers from Lindy and Fonte's era,
right?
Myself and Leroy. You know, I was thinking what was going through my mind was a lot of those guys that weren't there to share. You know, the Sterling Sharps or the Mikowskis or the Brian Nobles. You know, all those guys that were on the team helping us get, you know, step by step to where we were. And that was what was going through my mind. And just enjoying the fans, you know, going around and high-fiving everybody, you know, the craziness on the field with the media and the other guys, and just sharing it with the fans, I think was the biggest thing, because no one left that field, no one left that stadium until after the trophy presentation. So I think the temperature was probably like 3 degrees that day.
Yeah,
but that's Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think I would have to stick around for that too. As much as they had, as close as they had got, you guys had gotten, and then to get it at home. Yeah, I think I would have to stick around for that. Your special teams coach you had a special teams coach, Nolan Cromwell, right?
Yeah.
How was he?
He was good. I mean, obviously he was very good. As good as we were on offense and defense, that 96 season, I think we also had the number one special teams in the league as well. So I think we were 1 in defense, 1 offense, and 1 in special teams. We put a big emphasis on special teams. We didn't do any gimmicks. That's not how we were coached, and that really wasn't the way Mike Holmgren liked to do things either. He just wanted to play the game, play the game plan, and we were very well coached. We took a lot of time in meetings. We took a lot of time on the practice field. Had a lot of great guys on special teams, Desmond Howard, and I think William Henderson, a fullback who went on to play for 12 years, I think, with the Packers, was on special teams that year. So everybody knew how important every phase of that game was. If we could win all 3 phases, we're not going to lose many games.
Right. So that you get to the Superdome. What's it like when you come out for the first time in the Superdome with all the crowd there? What's going through your head?
Yeah, you know, that was my 8th year, and you know, before games, you know, whether it was the playoffs or regular season games, you're really not that nervous anymore. But I was nervous coming out for a Super Bowl, and I wasn't the only one.
Oh no, I'm sure not.
The bathroom was a very busy place. Yeah, that day. It's just totally different. I mean, the feel is different. You realize you're the only game in town. You realize the whole country, the whole world is watching. But really, once that first drive or, you know, the kickoff gets going, it's back to a plain old football game. But yeah, there were some nerves, you know, leading up to that game. It's quite different. I don't care how old you are, how long you've been in the league. You get nervous, and the nerves start working. Yeah,
and once the game got started, you say you settled down. But was there ever, especially after that at halftime, you guys are up 27-14. Did you guys feel like, we've got this game now? You know, the momentum's with us. They started out kind of strong. It was 14-10 into the first quarter. We took that hit, and now we're ahead 2 scores now. Did you feel like you pretty much had the game then?
In our minds, we always knew, I think, but, you know, the Patriots were obviously a very good team.
Yeah.
And actually, I think they came out and scored first and closed the gap a little bit. But I can picture it in my head right now, is when Reggie took over the game on defense.
Oh, yes.
I mean, he was throwing linemen out of the way with his one-arm move.
Yeah.
And sacking, you know, the quarterback, and I can't remember his name. Who was the quarterback?
Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah. So that's when I knew this game was done, because Reggie White was taking over the game, and the defense behind him was following along with Leroy Butler and all those guys. So, yeah, that was the turning point in that third quarter when we started dominating on defense.
Yeah, you guys get to win 35-21. Desmond Howard's the MVP. You know, I can't imagine the feeling to actually get to that game. One thing to get to the game, and then to win it. What was your thoughts when you guys won?
Yeah, I remember Craig Hendrick and I were sitting on the bench, probably with about a minute to go, and we just kind of looked at each other and go, "We're finally going to do it." I go, it's taken us 4 or 5 years to get past the 49ers and the Cowboys, and, get the right mix of guys in there with Desmond Howard and all the other guys that came along, and, all the guys that didn't make it. And I hate to use the word surreal because it's so overused, but it's really a surreal moment. You're just kind of looking, then all the confetti and the balloons, and you start looking for family members and wives and share it, to be able to share it with them. And it really doesn't hit you, I don't think, and probably for a week.
Right.
Because, you go in, after the game, you have the, congratulatory speech by the head coach and then the media, and then you go to the parties afterwards, and then, the plane ride home early the next morning, and and then you get back to Green Bay, and it's 2 degrees outside, and you're sharing it with, 300,000-400,000 people in a town that only holds about 100,000. So,
right.
You look back on it, and it was very surreal. I hate to use that word, but
right.
I'll have to figure out a synonym for that.
Yeah, the parade had to be something special, especially in that town. Bringing it back, bringing the Lombardi Trophy back, that was special. I remember Holmgren making that comment that we're bringing the Lombardi back to Green Bay. So that had to be a special feeling to be part of that team that brought the Lombardi back to Green Bay.
Yeah, it is. It's just a special town, and it's very. And you're familiar with the Steelers and Pittsburgh, right. And it's a small town. Still the population here is about 100,000. Very blue collar. Very God-loving people, and they love their Packers. And they've stuck through them through the 80s when they weren't so good, and they watched us build it up through the early 90s to achieve this, and we got to share it with the fans, and I think that was very important for us to do. It's not a large city, so our bus tour when we got home with the parade was. I think we circled the whole city, which took about a half an hour, but. But yeah, it was a lot of fun just to be able to share it with everybody.
But and you guys always try to include the fans. Training camp, you do the whole bicycle thing and walking with the fans. So you guys have always been that way.
Yeah. That was around when I was playing. I think it's been around forever. Riding different bikes and walking down to the practice field and that type of stuff. It's just very unique here.
Yeah. So you end up being a free agent after that season. You leave, like you said, you get signed by the Steelers. My boys.
I did.
Yeah, and you get hurt in training camp. So you never played a game. But your short time in Pittsburgh, what was it like?
It was very similar to Green Bay, and I was so excited to be there. Bill Cowher, great coach. A lot of the guys that were on the team that I got to meet, and I was real excited, and I was just so disappointed when I got hurt. It felt like being back in Green Bay. A little bigger town than Green Bay, but still the same, kind of blue collar, good people, love their football, love their Steelers, and I say this is for me. This is where I belong after being with the Packers, and got hurt during training camp, didn't work out so well. So, but I love the time I was there.
Yeah, and I
didn't get to play.
Yeah, you end up finish your career with the Cardinals, 98, 99, then you retire. Any thoughts about Arizona?
I love their golf course. That was coming from the Packers and then seeing what the Steelers were like. Totally different atmosphere in Phoenix, in Arizona with the Cardinals. I'll leave it at that.
Right, I got you.
My golf game got better. Let's put it that way.
I hear you. So what?
Not a lot of tradition down there.
Yeah, well, there wasn't a lot of tradition to hang your head on there either.
No.
So what are you up to now? Tell me a little bit about this alumni resource that you do.
It's actually called Player Alumni Resources. And when I was putting this idea together back in 2013 after I was inducted in the Packer Hall of Fame. What came along with that, as I was being asked to do a lot of golf outings or come and speak at our corporate luncheon or corporate dinner, or come to our fundraiser, or whatever, and these people were willing to pay me to do it. I'm going, well, this is cool.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was a financial planner, which was just, I hated it. And it was, I did it because it put a paycheck on my table, but I really wasn't enjoying it. And my wife at the time is a business consultant. She says, "Why don't you start a little business for yourself and go out and market yourself to do these golf outings and corporate speaking?" Well, that's a good idea. So I, the brainstorming inside my head started circulating, and I would talk to some of the guys that were kind of had big names like William Henderson or Gilbert Brown, those types of guys that the fans knew, or they were already doing those types of events, and asking them, "What are you guys doing, to get invited to do these things?" And they really weren't doing anything. There's a lot of people that they knew, word of mouth, that type of stuff. So I said, well, here's an idea I have. I'm going to start a website to kind of get this out there, because everything is website-based now, or social media or whatever. We've got to be out there so people can find it. And they love the idea. And I said, well, you tell me what you like to do. Do you like to golf? Do you like to fish? Do you like to speak in front of people? Do you just like to go out and sign autographs? And tell me what you charge for it. And so in the first year, I ended up talking to roughly 50 guys, the majority of which I played with on that Super Bowl 31 team. And that's the birth of Player Alumni Resources. And so when people come to me for an event, whether it's speaking or an autograph session or a golf outing, what have you, based on their budget, I go, well, here's a few guys that fit within that budget. You decide which ones you want. You prioritize them a little bit, and then I'll see who's available. So it's just kind of been working. It's snowballing a little bit here since 2013, and I stopped doing the financial planning because I couldn't stand it, and this is what I do full time now. So I get to go out and meet fans and corporate people and CEOs and owners of businesses and that type of stuff. And just if there's a need, here's where you can find us, and we'll try and fit your need.
All right, that's pretty awesome there. Okay, and what's the website that they can look this up at?
Yeah, it's playeralumniresources.com. Okay. And that's the easiest way to do it. Or you can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, and I have links to all that stuff on those two things.
Yeah, if you look on his Facebook page, which I'm looking at right now, his cover photo is actually him kicking a field goal with Brett Favre holding, and Brett Favre looks like, I don't know if that's going in or not.
If you look closely at that photo, and I can't bring it up on my phone, I think that's a photo of him not holding the ball in the Cincinnati game.
Yeah, it is. He's got his hands up, and he's looking like, I don't know if that's going in or not. But can't let you get off the phone without asking what your thoughts about the rest of the year. Your Packers look pretty good.
They do look good.
10-3. 10-3. I mean, they kind of struggled a little bit against the Redskins. I thought it was going to be more of a blowout against the Redskins.
That made me more nervous than I needed to be that game. Aaron hit it on the head. I don't know if you follow Aaron up here, but he said something this week, or maybe it was last week, that we're winning ugly, but we're winning.
Yeah.
And he'll take ugly wins all day long. That's kind of where I'm at. We're not killing people, but we're winning. And that's all that's important in this league. And as long as you're healthy, which we are, and you get in the playoffs, which we should be, anything can happen. We're kind of looking up at the 49ers right now. I think, in my opinion, they're kind of a head and shoulders above everybody else in the NFC right now. But like I said, anything can happen in the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. And
so as long as we stay healthy, number 12 stays healthy, we have a chance.
Well, it's just like with Pittsburgh right now. I follow a lot of social media Pittsburgh sites. I listen to a lot of the Pittsburgh talk radio. A lot of people talking about, well, we just did beat Arizona today. I said, well, you're not trying to win with style points. As long as you win, especially when you have a third string quarterback and none of you started. You're not a starting wide receiver or a starting running back. So I mean, you win. You do what you got to do to win. So
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if you win by 1 point or 30. It's still it's a W.
That's right. And with Pittsburgh's
so
situation,
that's all that matters. And the Steelers have turned it around the last 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
They were dead to the wind after 6 weeks into the season.
Yeah, they were. They definitely were. And with everything,
all of a sudden now they might be playoff bound. So, but that's the other conference. So
yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But Mr. Jacke, I can't thank you enough for doing this interview. I know I've taken up a lot of your time tonight. I appreciate you coming on the show, and hopefully maybe I'll get you back on. We'll be talking about Packers' deep run into the playoffs this year.
I'd love a playoff edition of this show. That'd be awesome.
All right, we'll be in touch with you. Thank you so much, guys. That's Chris Jacke on the Final Score.